his teammate iRaffer on the other side. On the Ganesh, I think the early game strategy of him preventing BaRRa and Jeff from doing their own red buff at the beginning of the game gave Minotaurs a really, really big lead in that duo side of the map, but the focus from Juggernauts on the right was enough to kind of mitigate that loss on the left.
It just seemed to me that the Neath also in Zyrhoes wasn't providing the synergy that they needed to with a World Weaver to find the kills, because everyone from Juggernauts positioned themselves so beautifully to absorb some of these Neath ultimates. The Aegises were also available in more situations than not, and off of that one, or the second invade from speed buff after that Benji died because he didn't have his ultimate, everything just started to slowly turn into Juggernaut's favor.
It was all about just about everybody. I mean, BaRRaCCuDDa also had a phenomenal performance on the Skadi. We said that was kind of a counter matchup there up against the ROM. So BaRRa just kind of responded by playing that lane very, very safely and playing for the team fights. Pandacat really seemed to want to stay in lane a little bit more. That split pushing down the two towers on the left side while the rest of the Juggernauts are doing the Portal Demon on the right. Panda just never really got a chance to make his mark in these team fights.
He tried to be aggressive at one point in time, but he couldn't really find the kill on his own because of just how much peel that JeffHindla really had for his Hunter at Luminosity Gaming. And the way Juggernauts played this first game was exactly the way Luminosity Gaming plays their whole entire games, is have BaRRaCCuDDa go wild, have everyone else play around him.
Also have to mention really quickly as we get into picks and bans here for game number 2, love the synergy between the Freya and Terra selections. It's easy CC to just have the Terra set up the crushing walls right where the person's going to be coming down from that banish. Guaranteed stun. We saw that force a couple purification beads from Zyrhoes in that game. Minotaurs, they've had enough. A QvoFred, they take 2 shots at his god pool. Kamazats and Raven taken away from the Juggernauts jungler. Chronos still the ban from the Juggernauts, and Soul from them this time around. So now it's Minotaurs with the first pick.
We saw Juggernauts first pick Terra last game, and you were talking about the crushing earth, how impactful that is, but don't forget, just the ability to dash through the monolith and root is another great form of crowd control, but Minotaurs not wanting to take Terra away from Juggernauts, with Morrigan being open, they really want to get this in the hands of Zyrhoes.
Like you mentioned, Zyrhoes didn't look particularly comfortable on the Neath, so put him on a comfort pick, and the Morrigan is one that not only is he comfortable with, but one that he can carry with as well. Terra immediately locked in by the Juggernauts. No hesitation from them. Terra 3-0 on the day if you're keeping score at home. So now Terra and the rest of the Juggernauts have a choice. It's going to be Serqet in the jungle for QvoFred. All right, Toli, can you explain this to me? Because at the beginning of Season 4, Serqet permabanned, basically. Everyone was banning her. And then it would start to slip through a couple times. No one was really picking her, but teams would still ban her whenever they had to throw away ban. All of a sudden, she seems to be getting this slight resurgence. Why did we not see Serqet for a little bit, and why are we seeing her now?
Sometimes we don't see Serqet is because you don't want to give the opponent another great god to transform into with the Morrigan, but it seems to me that Juggernauts either don't care about the potential for Zyrhoes to go into Serqet, or they kind of forgot about it. But Serqet is always going to be in the mix of jungle discussion, especially if you look at Thor as well. They go in and out of season. It just depends on your playstyle and where you're trying to focus. I wouldn't be surprised here if Juggernauts really start leaning on the solo lane and trying to find some early kills here. I'm expecting QvoFred to make sure Benji doesn't have a good time in this game.
You know what's worse than giving a team a Serqet ultimate with the Morrigan is giving them 2 Serqet ultimates with the Morrigan. I think that might be a reason why we see Juggernauts pick it, even though we've seen how devastating that Serqet transformation can be. Adapting, an excellent Serqet player has proven that consistently throughout his career. Don't necessarily want to give him Serqet and then get 2 last breaths onto 1 target.
Absolutely, and because you can't really stop a lot of the damage from Serqet in terms of healing, as it has 100% anti-healing, you're going to get a little bit of a Geb health shield to counteract that. Not going to see a Khepri, instead that shield and the potential for CC disruption. Once Serqet goes in, you disrupt her zigzag with a Cataclysm, you knock her up, and then you try to focus her out.
Sun Wukong, the other selection there for the Minotaurs. Variety looked oh so good on it that Minotaurs decided they want to take it for themselves. So now the Juggernauts have 1 more selection before the second ban phase. In this spot, in game 1, it was the Freya for the mid laner. Could be again. I mean, as we mentioned, Freya and Terra synergize very well together, but you don't have that same synergy with the Camazotz there with that big burst of damage coming down from the Whoop, but Deathbane still can do quite a bit, setting up for that Cobra's Kiss.
There's just so much damage potential with just Serqet and Freya alone. Still 2 more picks for both of these teams here, and we'll see how they complement this Freya. The late game potential from Juggernauts really showed its potential there as they safely trailed away from that early game because of the protections that Terra provided for them.
Susano banned by Juggernauts. Osiris, the selection for the Minotaurs. Another jungle ban from the Juggernauts, Nemesis. So this time adapting, going to have to go a slightly different route than he might be used to. Those are 2 of his more played gods in the jungle, especially as of late as Minotaurs take Erlong Shen away from Variety. Camazotz is banned, so that assassin that Variety has in his god pool, not an option for the solo lane this time around. Are there any warriors that stand out to you that are available still that might be good here?
Bologna stands out. That's the one. Vamana is still available. We haven't really seen too much tier here specifically, and considering, you know, how much crowd control that Juggernauts has, that wouldn't be a bad idea the way tier's passive works.
What about Odin? Odin could be really solid here. I mean, we've seen a lot of Odin creep its way back into the meta.
Fair.
Don't know if that's a Variety god. Variety likes to be a little bit more aggressive than Odin can really allow you to be. Yes,
sure.
You can obviously bird bomb into the back line, but then you kind of need some backup, unlike gods like Wukong and Osiris who can handle a backline all on their own a lot of the times. I think that might be why we see the Skadi selection here for Juggernauts, to wait and see if Minotaurs will pick some more gods that can't quite get out of a cage. Plus, as you mentioned, solo laners just like to have the last pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised here if he just honestly goes Bologna and just calls it a day, allow the aggression from QvoFred to just dictate the early game, and then have that true impact out of that Eagles rally just to amplify more damage from BaRRaCCuDDa playing the Skadi.
Batz, a god that has really disappeared from the meta. Starting to see a little bit of play again, potentially, picked here by adapting Hu Yi, the pick for Pandacat, a very comfortable pick for the EU United Hunter. So now Juggernauts have the last pick here in this draft. Those are 2 gods that can get out of Odin Cage, so that might dissuade Variety from going that route. Bologna still on the table, as you mentioned, and a great pick for Variety historically. But in this matchup against the Wukong, it's going to be the Ratatoskr. Now, BaRRaCCuDDa told me that he wasn't going to allow Variety to play Ratatoskr because he saw that Dignitas video of him missing his entire kit. So I don't know. Maybe BaRRa's going to get a little frustrated right off the bat here.
I mean, if he wants to win and separate himself from 3rd, 4th versus 2nd, 1st, I'm sure he'll let Variety play whatever Variety wants to play. And in this matchup, it seems that he's very comfortable with Ratatoskr against the Sun Wukong. The way this works is just trying to out-rotate Sun Wukong using that global ultimate in the mid lane.
Ratatoskr and Sun Wukong kind of similar in the aspect of can get into the backline very easily and then very difficult to lock down once they get there. Both characters very difficult to lock down and kill. So maybe that's the same sort of idea that Variety is going for, trying to do the same sort of thing that he did in Game 1.
And the thing is also the Gladiator Shield is also very good on Ratatoskr because of his low ability cooldowns, and his ability to double dash is going to be very annoying to deal with if you're on the side of Minotaurs.
I mean, you're already getting a heal because of the Acorn passive whenever you use your abilities, so Gladiator Shield is kind of amplifying that innate sustain that Ratatoskr has with that special item. Chat, get it out of the way now. I promise you, Ratatoskr is not going to build boots.
You sure? Every Ratatoskr I've seen has always built boots.
I have never seen a Ratatoskr build boots. I don't know what games you're watching, but they are not the same as mine. That's an Acorn, and that's not going to be boots next to it.
Cameraman is like trying to be like, that's boots. That's an Acorn.
It's better than boots.
Acorn, boots.
Acorn is officially greater than boots.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. The way Ratatoskr is meant to be played, he has to have some sort of advantage by having that base item. Yammyn trying to already poke out the Zyrhoes here, not allowing Morrigan any freedom and adapting, having to use a very early beads.
Variety, did he get it? Can we check in with Variety real quick? Did he get his dash or his stun there? What forced adapting's, yeah, it was the stun. So Variety came up stunned adapting, and that's what forced the beads, and still plenty of poke onto the jungler. So Juggernauts end up on top. in that little poke exchange before the mid waves meet. BaRRaCCuDDa taking a lot of damage on this right-hand side with Benji here. Got to be careful with these AoE autos. In fact, an early Bracer of Undoing to keep BaRRaCCuDDa topped off.
But Benji took a lot of damage as well. However, he has some multi-potions to be able to deal with some of this poke. And not only that, he also has the shell, which is another great idea to absorb some of the enhance potentially out of Minotaurs.
Another purification beat. This time it's Zyrhoes in the mid lane. And so Yammyn and Qvo go aggressive here. Adapting sitting only level 1. Could mean that this speed buff might be given up on the right-hand side, and indeed it will. Benji tried to go for the steal, but couldn't quite find it. Juggernauts again with the pressure on the right side of the map.
Juggernauts just know how to tilt adapting. You focus him early on, you prevent him from getting any sort of speed buff, and the rest of the game should be pretty gravy here, and that's the one strategy that you can really lean on. And the way QvoFred has been playing in his SPL career is just trying to find ways to shut down his true contender for that MVP jungle position.
Not only is that excellent for QvoFred and bad for adapting, but that kind of opened the door for BaRRaCCuDDa to get pressure back in that solo lane. We saw Benji really claim that for himself with the early wave, forcing the Bracer of Undoing, but by rotating in to try and secure that speed buff and not getting anything for that rotation, ends up being big plays for BaRRaCCuDDa. Zyrhoes might be in some trouble here. Knocked out of stealth immediately, but Yammyn needed one more shot out of that pulse in order to confirm that kill.
If only he had a little bit more attack speed for that duration of it, it might not have been a kill. It was going to be very close. If he survived, it couldn't have been more than with 5 health. But either way, by taking that much poke, that's technically half a kill because you're going to force Zyrhoes back to base, losing on some very important farm timing.
Everywhere for the Juggernauts is winning right now. BaRRaCCuDDa, as I mentioned, has reclaimed pressure on the right. BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla have had this dual lane push under tower the entire game, and now adapting, starting to make his way over. Maybe to try and relieve a little bit of this pressure, as BaRRaCCuDDa's been the first to hit level 5. Pandacat jumps in onto JeffHindla. Here comes adapting. I don't think they know he's here, but BaRRa's taking it to Pandacat right now. Pinning him up against the wall, but a big crit comes through. Still not enough as BaRRa claims first blood up against Pandacat.
That's a worthy sacrifice, 1-for-1. Ulti for ulti in the soul lane to respond here. Gonna favor out Benji, I would say, even though it is a little bit of a longer timer. Now the rest of his teammates don't have to worry about that global presence for the next 90 seconds.
Ratatoskr's ultimate, absolutely one of the most disruptive, out-of-nowhere abilities that can happen to you in Smite. Big reason why he was so dominant in the meta for so long was just how massive that Through the Cosmos ultimate was. Now a little bit smaller than it used to be, but still an easy ability to confirm, and the knock-up and damage that it provides, absolutely worth it.
And because Wukong used that ultimate to stop the knock-up from the ultimate, he's also getting the full duration of the heal. Getting back that 25% health allows him to stay in this laning phase much longer than BaRRaCCuDDa will, and without a teleport for either of these soul laners, the name of the game is going to be all sustain.
Both of these characters can get back to lane very quickly, though. I think that's why we see both opt for options outside of teleport. BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't feel comfortable sticking around for this wave, and with how low his HP is, can't say I blame him. Starting with that round shield right after the Acorn, so probably going to be that Gladiator shield that we mentioned.
It's just so important to try to be able to out-sustain your opposition. Already finishing off his Acorn will give him plenty of mobility because he doesn't have to back to base to complete any stage of that Acorn. So that in itself gives him that huge advantage in the laning phase, whereas Benji, he only backed to finish off the tier 2 boots, not having the most mobility in the world to get back to the laning phase, which wouldn't surprise me if either of these soul laners go for the Swift Wing just to get back into the action. 800
gold to get yourself back to lane very quickly, consistently. Also gives you some health, some outright movement speed throughout. So certainly an excellent item. I agree with you. I think it would be a good pickup on either of the soul laners. This time around, adapting was able to secure his own speed buff. No one from Juggernauts there to contest it, and the Minotaurs were there on time. You can be sure that adapting saying, hey, we got to be on time for these speed buffs now because Qvo has been all over them so far in this set.
And despite having that 1 level disadvantage earlier on, adapting has caught up because of that counter aggression, already using that ultimate, trying to force out some ultimates.
Yammyn uses an ultimate and a purification beats of his own, but Zyrhoes is in a lot of trouble now. He's forced into the Serqet transformation just to use that mobility to get away. No ultimate onto iRaffer there from QvoFred. Thought he might just pick up that last breath to shove iRaffer into the waiting clutches of the other 3 members of his team that were there, but decides to play a little bit safer.
I mean, considering iRaffer has the shell, it's such a risky thing to do here because of the little bit of a bubble you're going to get to negate a majority of that last breath damage. But QvoFred having other ideas, trying to take advantage of this 1v1. Pandacat really out of position.
Panda realizes he might be in some trouble. BaRRaCCuDDa has to use his purification beads as Panda in a lot of trouble. Last breath comes down, thrown right back towards BaRRa. Panda's going to fall. BaRRa gets kill number 2 in this game as Variety is forced into the tree to get away from the gang from adapting.
Pandacat knew he was dead to rise. He didn't even use the purification beads. He's probably wishing he elected for the Aegis instead, recognizing that the last breath is truly deadly.
Benji using the clone to tank the tower to bring adapting in. Now Benji gonna take tower aggro, but Variety's gonna fall regardless. That evens up the kill total at 2. Good pressure from the Minotaurs on the right side of the map.
Back and forth action, 1-for-1 earlier on, and another 1-for-1 between the duo and the solo. A little bit of action in that mid lane as Yammyn got poked out by Zyrhoes. Something that we're going to see not very often because of the way the first game was played. Juggernauts really made sure that Yammyn had a safe time getting out of the early game.
This time he's had a little bit more pressure on him. Beads are down right now because of adapting Fear No Evil on top left Harpies. Ultimate back up by this time, but so is adapting. So don't be surprised if you see the Minotaurs jungler immediately try and get Yammyn, knowing those purification beads are down for another 40 seconds. Qvo lurking as a speed buff respawns for the Minotaurs, but with enough members there that dissuades Qvo enough to allow adapting to pick it up.
No possible response here. Adapting's going to get his own speed buff. Great timing for him to get that one. Variety, though, feeling very frisky. Bad timing.
There he goes, adapting again, showing his face on the right side of the map. Gets Benji another kill now. And so that lead for Benji starting to become really serious. About 500 gold up over top of Variety at this stage in the game. Assassins in the solo lane, totally not a class that you want to fall behind on.
No, definitely not, because you're just not going to have the tankiness to get to that mid game. By not having the farming opportunity and getting the gold that you need, now that tier 3 Height of the Urchin that you might have finished earlier on, now is only going to be a tier 2 for one big important team fight, for example.
Benji trying to invade this blue buff. Decides to give it up and try and get away, but Qvo is here and has that last breath available. Benji, as soon as he starts to use the ultimate, Qvo applies the debuff to make sure that Benji's not going to be getting any healing, but it stopped the CC chain, which meant Variety couldn't get there in time to find the ultimate damage. Don't know if it would have resulted in a kill, but I know that Benji got away with the way that the Juggernauts played it.
I would have liked to see QvoFred use that ultimate during the CC chain so he can also confirm the in-hand after 3 stacks of poisons instead of 2. You're getting more damage off of that in-hand, and that could have been the difference between life or death for the soul laner out of Minotaurs.
And that could have been a big kill for Variety. He certainly needs it now, being down 2 levels, still about 500, now closer to 600 gold actually. That would have been pretty big to get Variety back into the game. If you're Qvo at this stage, do you try and focus down Benji, try and get Variety back into it, or do you just kind of put your hopes into BaRRaCCuDDa and Yammyn and allow Variety to just kind of take this for the moment?
Focus the squishies. Get BaRRaCCuDDa ahead. Try to get Zyrhoes and Pandacat out of the game, because if you're trying to gank Benji, he's already going to be very tanky by having that shell, and that's going to give him enough of an opportunity to get into the sky anyway, which gives him enough of a window to get off at least the cooldowns.
Adapting, goes forward, finds the Fear No Evil, but immediately the turn is good from the Juggernauts, enough to force Adapting back. Don't think he got any purification beads. No, he did. Qvo's now on cooldown, as well as the shell from JeffHindla.
Which means that once Zyrhoes' ultimate comes back, he should be able to use his ultimate and go into a Batz or Serqet. The options for Zyrhoes in mid is just endless.
Variety going aggressive with that ultimate as Benji used one of his own in order to get some HP back. Both Variety and Benji have their relics, and both can turn a low HP fight very, very quickly. Shell for Benji, Bracer of Undoing for Variety, and both kind of playing with fire here as Benji pretty low on mana, but Variety very low on health.
He's not really too worried, because even if he will get hit a little bit, he's going to be able to return the favor with the Acorn Blast, giving him sustain with the Gladiator Shield on top of this. We were talking about it earlier on, how both of these soul laners really want to poke each other out just to proc those gladiator shields.
Uh-oh, adapting again on this right side. Trying to chase down Variety, but the dart gets him out of range from the Furious Monkey Toss in time. So Variety avoids his third death.
Surprised Adapting didn't just straight up walk under the tower once the minion wave was getting a little bit closer to absorb some of those tower hits. Without the ultimate from Variety, that was almost a guaranteed kill with just one overhand smash. Now granted, there is no fear, no evil, so not wanting to take that risk.
Plus he didn't have his purification beads Adapting, so if he gets stunned under tower after taking the aggro, maybe that's enough in order to put Variety. That would put Variety back in the game because Adapting worth a lot of gold right now. Second on the net worth charts at 6,200. Down about 1,000 gold is Variety. So that would have been a pretty big bounty for the Juggernaut solo laner to kind of catapult himself back into viability in this one.
I always just look at it as risking it for the biscuit. You know me. If I can find a chance to get some RNG's crits with that Hunbat's passive, I'm going to take it almost every single time. But that's why Adapting's Adapting. That's why I am here.
There's the ultimate in the mid lane. Is Adapting again, using the blink this time in order to close that gap. But Yammyn was able to use an ultimate of his own in order to give himself the immunity he needed to get out of that Fear No Evil. So no purification beads used, just an ultimate for an ultimate. Qvo now on this right side trying to put pressure onto Benji, immediately recognizing it and goes up into that somersault cloud. Adapting, heading over, is spotted out by that ward as Benji comes crashing down onto two. Good damage onto the two members, but Benji accidentally clears the minions right before the monkey bounce hits. Adapting was kind of counting on that to get into the fight.
Adapting also has Blink, or not Blink available, sorry, 60-second cooldown. He did buy it, though, trying to make sure that he would find easier opportunities to engage, just to make sure that he has the jump just to disengage. But in the dual lane, a lot of man fighting here between Pandacat and BaRRaCCuDDa.
BaRRa has the ultimate, but no HP left on Caldier. Now he's going to pop it, and Panda forced to jump away. Terra's Blessing used as well. Two ultimates for one there, baited out by BaRRaCCuDDa. Variety also needed the benefit of the Terra's Blessing as he's forced away from his tier 1 tower. This one likely to fall. Terra's Blessing now, I thought that was used, my mistake. Now it's up for JeffHindla. Gonna use it, try and get into range, but will not be able to get there in time. 500 gold goes the Juggernaut's way, or it's the Minotaurs' way.
It's going to be easy 500 gold for them because of Variety left alone in a 1v2. However, QvoFred now in position, but the Fear No Evil disrupting the whole engage.
Benji gets that last breath right on top of him, but he is patient and finds the knockup. Qvo trying to retreat. Adapting finds the monkey bounce, but it doesn't quite reach all the way to Qvo.
If iRaffer was a little bit closer to shield Adapting, then he'd be able to go in, but it was actually Zyrhoes that transformed into the Terra earlier on to make sure that Pandacat was going to be in a good opportunity.
Good, I wasn't going crazy. I thought I just was starting to hear things, so at least I'm not completely insane. Benji has his ultimate up again. Man, that seems like a very, very low cooldown on that right-hand side as Variety almost found an opportunity for a solo kill.
Well, with 10% cooldown reduction on that Gladiator Shield, and as you're leveling some Wukong's ultimate, you're also getting some seconds shaved off of that ultimate, so which is why we're seeing this matched opportunity here between Variety and Benji.
Horrific Emblem, the second relic choice here for Benji. Why do we see this relic here, and do you like it in this situation?
Well, I like it in late game team fights because of the upgraded form of it. You're reducing a lot of attack damage or basic in-hand damage, and we're looking at a Freya in the late game and a Skadi. Yeah, I'm going to spend this 500 gold in the mid game even just to upgrade it here, reduce the attack speed even without the upgrade, but more importantly is that upgrade just to shred away more damage.
Yeah, I think it removes 20% of the damage that someone who gets hit by Horrific Emblem will do. You stack that on top of 25% attack speed reduction, even at the base level. That is a massive DPS loss for a character like Freya that really relies on that attack speed in order to do her damage.
Especially if JeffHindla or Variety elect to build into that Shogun's Kusari just to amplify some attack speed. That one relic will reduce some of that potential here. And BaRRaCCuDDa versus Pandacat has been a interesting little matchup here. Pretty quiet in this game compared to the last, simply because Juggernauts was just running wild with QvoFred on the Kamazats, but a great job by banning that away, leaving him with a Serqet.
Variety forced into the Bracer of Undoing. Still a lot of pressure onto him from Benji as there's the Cataclysm knockup on a QvoFred. iRaffer in some trouble, thrown back, but Qvo takes a lot of damage himself. Adapting blinks forward and knocks him down with a single auto attack. Now it's JeffHindla left alone. A beautiful double banish there from Yammyn buys Jeff a moment, but I don't know if it's going to be more than that. Trying to use the Gold Fury to his advantage doesn't go his way. Zyrhoes claims kill number 5 as Pandacat jumps aggressively. Yammyn up into the Valkyrie's discretion. Adapting falling very low, but a well-timed shield from iRaffer gets his jungle out of danger.
True support, keeping his carry alive. BaRRaCCuDDa trying to bait Benji to go back into the thick of things, but not wanting to dive in 1v3. Only as a level 15 Sun Wukong. Shell and Horrific Emblem still available for that soul laner, and he's going to look for an opportunity to invade the blue buff as the action starts to quiet down.
2 for 0. BaRRaCCuDDa trying to get back into lane, decides not to take that 1v1 fight, especially with Adapting's ultimate coming back up shortly. He's got that 20% CDR on the Jotun's Wrath, and Fear No Evil, even though we haven't seen Batz for a while, I think we could all remember that Fear No Evil is really, really difficult to handle in team fights.
Absolutely. It's also going to force out that purification beads. It's also going to allow Zyrhoes the opportunity to go into a Batz and do the same exact thing. And it covers the whole entire mid lane if placed right in the center. And whether or not you're going to go for the kill, at least you can also use it to zone out. Similar to how a lot of Odins have been picked recently, just dropping that cage as a zoning mechanism.
A little bit less duration on that Fear No Evil than the cage, certainly, but you're right, can be used in that sort of circumstance and has been in the past to great effect. This time around, Minotaurs is a little bit different from Game 1. They've already got 3 more kills than they had in the entirety of Game 1. They're sitting at 5 to Juggernauts 2. We've got a pretty slight gold lead here, about 3,000, 2,500 to be a little bit closer, but the experience difference is significant. Over 5,000 XP for the Minotaurs.
And this is really impressive considering the last game, it was Gold Fury back and forth. Minotaurs got the first one in 8.5 minutes, then Juggernauts responded in kind about 7 minutes after the fact. But this game, neither team wanted to pull the trigger quite yet on that objective, instead taking what they can in terms of buffs or towers.
BaRRaCCuDDa has been the one who's been focused down heavily. In Game 1, he and Qvo combined to really put down the right side of the map for the Minotaurs. This time it's been the other way around. The Order side has been getting the better of the chaos, at least on the right side of the map in both games so far. 2 level 16s between Benji and Adapting, level 14 and 13 for BaRRaCCuDDa and Qvo respectively. And now BaRRaCCuDDa in a little bit of trouble, takes about half his HP in poke, but should be able to stay safe enough here.
You can just really tell that Benji's so comfortable playing this Sun Wukong. Any opportunity he can get just to get a little close to the little rat being played by BaRRaCCuDDa, he will punish him. Even showing off the Wing Blade here just to negate some of the slows here coming out of BaRRaCCuDDa.
Not usually what you're used to seeing as Zyrhoes finds a stun onto Yammyn. That Book of the Dead shield comes up pretty big, taking a lot of that damage away. Yammyn gets hit by the knockup from iRaffer, trying to get a little bit of lifesteal back from these minions. Adapting, lurking in the jungle. He's right on top of a ward, but remember, has that blink ultimate. This time the stun's on a QvoFred. He takes about half his HP. Zyrhoes forced into the purification beads as Adapting uses an ultimate of his own to try and get some pressure out from the Juggernauts. Yammyn stunned again by Zyrhoes. Blink Cataclysm not enough, and Zyrhoes transforms into the Terra to give a team of Terra's blessing of their own. Adapting the one to get the kill. Big ultimate on a Pandacat. BaRRaCCuDDa only finds 1 on the knockup on the backside as Jeff getting chased down and controlled by Benji.
Benji going into the cloud. He got 1, and now he's going to use that decoy just to zone while the rest of his teammates are going to secure themselves 500 gold in the form of this tier 1 tower. 2 for nothing as Yammyn took a spill as well. Great play coming out of Minotaurs, really utilizing that Morrigan stealth to their fullest advantage to kick things off.
Zyrhoes, man, the way he plays this Morrigan is so fun to watch. Just right in the thick of things, stealthing and finding another initiation stun. Minotaurs get the Gold Fury. They may get another kill here as Benji, considering chasing down BaRRaCCuDDa, but with BaRRaCCuDDa showing up to the engagement, decides to take the safer option and retreat after a big team fight win for the Minotaurs. Gives them their first substantial gold lead of the game, about 5,000 gold in the lead now, and that experience difference just continues to go more heavily in the Minotaurs' favor.
And most of this experience lead is from the jungle and the soul lane position. We're looking at the level advantage between Benji and Adapting. 3 levels at least behind both of them, and that's not something you want to be if you're in the Juggernauts, or that position rather. You're trying to control the pace of the game, but the Serqet just wasn't pulling in the work they wanted to.
Couple winged blades here. One for BaRRaCCuDDa, as has been pointed out a couple times, and now for QvoFred as well. Trying to get rid of the slows from Pandacat's ultimate, as well as Benji with that master, as well as Zyrhoes looking for another stun. Walks right past the front line and immediately onto QvoFred. A quick purification beads. Doesn't even matter. Adapting follows him with the Furious Monkey teleport, and that's number 8. For the Minotaurs. Zyrhoes again looking for a 2-man Cataclysm stun onto BaRRaCCuDDa, but Zyrhoes left alone now. Geb shield coming out from iRaffer might not be enough as everyone from the Juggernauts surrounding the mid laner. Variety is the one to get credit. Yammyn pumping damage into iRaffer and Benji. Variety finds the knockup. Benji in the middle of 3, and no one seems to even want to hit him.
He wants to find at least one more kill. BaRRaCCuDDa is so low, but gonna bait him out a little bit longer by forcing out that Terra dash through the monolith. The rest of Minotaurs are gonna be a little comfortable with this 1-for-1 trade, considering that QvoFred was the victim yet again, allowing Adapting to separate the gap even further, getting closer and closer to that level 20 mark.
QvoFred was full health, and then he was dead in about 2 seconds or so. I mean, it was stunned into Fear No Evil. Love Adapting's choice to throw the monkey just so that he can have that teleport option if Qvo has the purification bead and gets away. He did, but it didn't matter because of Adapting's line of play.
Sometimes, you know, I say that there is no luck when there's skill meets, or when preparation meets opportunity, and that's exactly what happened. Adapting got the last hit of that Furious Monkey onto QvoFred just to chase him out. If QvoFred doesn't die there, the portal demon goes Juggernauts.
Benji gets a bait going, and Adapting finds Qvo once more. Perfectly played from the United Soul laner, playing with the European counterparts. Yammyn in a lot of trouble. He's going to fall. Never had the ultimate come back up in time. iRaffer does fall to the hand of BaRRaCCuDDa, who's doing his best to keep Juggernauts in this team fight, but the rest of his team is falling one by one. He's the next victim. Zyrhoes claims his 3rd. Benji in the middle of 3 looked like he was way out of position there, Toli, until Adapting shows up and finds a 4-man Fear No Evil. This is likely to be a deicide here.
Get the cudgel. It is a deicide aggro. Nice cudgel by Benji, just sticking it into Variety. And with that portal demon, Minotaurs extends their advantage to beyond the 5-digit mark of experience, 7,500 gold, and now they're getting this late game Fire Giant objective.
Benji the one tanking it up. Qvo has respawned and does have his blink. No ultimate available for him. He's going to jump forward, but realizes this might have been a little bit too early. Good damage on the Pandacat. Better shield from iRaffer and Qvo. He's going to fall once more. Benji, 1 HP, does not quite fall to the Fire Giant. Minotaurs juggle the aggro well enough in order to keep all 5 alive with the buff.
Calculated. That's all that it was for Benji. But honestly, that was a great attempt by QvoFred, trying to at least steal away that Fire Giant. He got past Adapting, realized like, oh, whoa, this Fire Giant's not low enough. Let me sneak back underneath here, trying to zigzag through, maybe find the kill onto somebody there, whether it was going to be him finding the kill or getting everyone low enough to allow Fire Giant's pools to finish the job he started.
Either way, the Minotaurs end up A-okay, all healthy, all with the buff. It's all good. They're up 10 kills right now, 14-4, 24 minutes in. Gold lead really close to that 10K mark. When the Gold Fury respawns in less than 30 seconds, I suspect we're going to be seeing 5 digits on that gold difference chart.
And I'm also expecting a game number 3 here after this performance coming out of Minotaurs. It just seems to me that they really made the necessary adjustments in the second game to not only allow Adapting the opportunity to shine, but just to shut down QvoFred playing the Serqet. He's still level 14 for the past 5 minutes, I think.
That's crazy. I mean, he has not been able to get any easy farm in this jungle. Both junglers struggling at least in one set. In fact, Qvo, bottom of the net worth charts, he's down, what, 3,000, 4,000 gold to adapting right now?
Not somewhere you want to be as a Serqet, because the way Serqet's played is you want to be aggressive, but when you're this far behind compared to everyone else, now your abilities don't even do that much damage. It's not a goddess that could be necessarily played as effectively when behind.
No, Serqet is excellent in the early game. Not a great team fighter in the later stages, really more focused on the early picks and then trying to finish off low health targets or isolated players in the later stages. When you're level 14 and you're trying to kill level 20s, level 16 Gebs, it's going to be pretty difficult to do your job in that sort of scenario. Minotaurs sieging up, Zyrhoes coming on the backside. Let's listen to Minotaurs. They try and finish game number 2.
Yeah. I'm here. Yeah.
Who use one shot? Get shield down. Who's weak? I got him. Morgan ult down. Nice. I'm keeping. Nice. I'm pushing power. I can. My stun's coming up. Morgan. Morgan. I'm keeping him zoned. You guys just go in here. Jeff no ult. Yeah. Nice. Someone needs to go mid. Alright. Yeah, I'm going over mid. I'm on cooldown. Yeah. Nice, guys.
I'm pushing right now.
Alright.
Beats down on the Hoyi, by the way.
Production knew something we didn't, totally, because I thought Minotaurs were going to win that fight, but it's actually the Juggernauts who you'll listen to in that listen-in who ended up on top, a 2-for-1 in a successful Tier 2 defense.
It just seemed to me that Minotaurs wanted to be a little too spicy. Zyrhoes wrapping around behind the Tier 2 towers, Morrigan, iRaffer blinking into the thick of things. It seemed that they could have baited out a little bit more and make this encounter drawn out slightly longer.
Pandacat again, the focus. He's had a tough set so far. Doing pretty well in terms of net worth, but if we could check in with player damage, BaRRaCCuDDa again, I suspect a little bit higher, though. Panda second on his team, doing better than I thought in that regard. Still the most deaths on his team, but pumping out the damage necessary to get the job done.
As a level 20 Hui, that damage is just going to skyrocket, and that's because these team fights haven't lasted as long as they could. A team fight that lasts a minute versus 15 seconds, any target with Mark of the Golden Crow, we're looking at the tanks specifically between either Jeff or Variety. They're just going to slowly start dwindling in the health department as each shot gets progressively harder and harder.
And QvoFred got a lot of levels in that last engagement. We're talking about him being level 14. Now level 17, but again the fight breaks out in mid this time around. JeffHindla controlled as Qvo blinks into the backline. Variety's right there with him, trying to chase down Zyrhoes. iRaffer, he's been left all alone under that middle tower, and BaRRa eats him alive with the help of QvoFred. Another botched engagement by the Minotaurs allows Juggernauts a successful defense.
Just yet again, Minotaurs dumping their load onto JeffHindla. Not the person you want to try to focus out right off the bat. And with that, Fire Giant buff is no longer on the waist of Minotaurs. They have to wait for this objective to come back into it. And they also have a 4-on-5 disadvantage for 25 seconds as iRaffer is coming back from the grave.
Zyrhoes, no relics, but doesn't seem to stop him from wanting to play aggressive with that invisibility stun. Juggernauts realize they have the advantage and going to dash forward. Variety finds a stun onto Benji, but very little damage onto him. Qvo looking for something with that madness, but can't quite find it. Couple ultimates still available here between the Last Breath and Valkyrie's Discretion for the mid jungle for Juggernaut. Zyrhoes around the back. Qvo lurking. He finds him in the invisibility and tosses him right into the thick of things. Juggernauts get the easy kill onto Zyrhoes there. Qvo paying attention with that Last Breath ultimate. Portal Demon goes down for Juggernauts. In that situation, Qvo just has that hovered waiting for it to have a valid target, right?
Yes, absolutely. He knows the play style out of his mid laner. We were talking about knowing your opposition.
Double whoop by Yammyn. A huge Fear No Evil, though, from adapting. Stops the fight in its tracks. iRaffer in the middle of everyone. Big Cataclysm out of him. Variety with a two-man knock-up on the backside. iRaffer again getting focused. Big bracer from Variety saves his life. Qvo doing his best to handle Benji as adapting blinks forward and finds the solo laner. Benji will claim JeffHindla as well, and he's not quite done. Another kill goes adapting's way. Panda claims one of his own. Yammyn, the only one left alive, and Minotaur's solo laner doesn't seem like he wants to let him go. Does have to be careful here, but with iRaffer providing the knock-up, that should be enough. A deicide, and iRaffer smacks down his mid laner with the Geb auto.
Throwing him some taunts. JeffHindla actually smiling and laughing from the taunts as well. Second Fire Giant going in the way of the Minotaurs. And this, I was about to say, like, this is going to get a little scary for Minotaurs if they don't close out the game soon because of the late game potential out of Juggernauts. QvoFred finally finding some levels. He went from 14 to 17 in the last 3 to 4 minutes. And now Freya is getting closer and closer to the level 20 mark. So Minotaurs has to get some Phoenixes.
But again, you didn't like the fact that Minotaurs were dumping a lot of resources onto JeffHindla, but that time it was the other way around. iRaffer was eating a lot of damage there, and my man's is a level 18 Geb. Like, good luck killing him unless his team has left him entirely behind. That's what happened under that mid-tier 2. But that time, iRaffer in the middle of the squad just can't be the focus of that sort of scenario.
Especially with a Spirit's Robe that gives you damage reduction after getting hit with a crowd control. I think it's about 15% damage reduction. Not very easy to lock down. Such a tanky support that also has a shield between his relic and his own kit.
Adapting is 9, 0, and 10. He's been a part of 19 of the Minotaurs' 20 kills. He's had an unbelievable showing on this Hun Batz, who definitely one of his, historically one of his best gods. Haven't seen it in a while, but certainly showing that just like riding a bike.
The way I look at adapting is kind of like the way I look at Saiyans in Dragon Ball Z. You knock him out, he comes back stronger. That's exactly what's happening here in game number 2.
Certainly so. 9, 0, and 10. My goodness. So third on his team in player damage, but as an assassin, that's really impressive to be where he is. BaRRaCCuDDa top of his team. Variety's crept up there, now second on the squad, only a little bit ahead of Yammyn, at least for the time being, as a tier 2 tower. This time, no successful defense from the Juggernauts, no attempted defense either. They give up that 1,500 gold to the Minotaurs. The items are starting to pile up for the for iRaffer's squad. Starting to get a pretty big lead as Zyrhoes finds us on Variety, brings him down to half HP, but Variety gets the purification beats from Zyrhoes. A win for the Juggernauts there.
But at the same time, Variety was using his own purification beads. I think he purposely put himself there knowing that somewhere within that vicinity, Zyrhoes was looking for that kind of play. They just know his playstyle. We saw how Juggernauts took advantage of Zyrhoes earlier on in this game, maybe like 3 minutes ago, and that's why they got some of those kills that they needed. But this time around, he's just too far ahead in the item department. Minotaurs are up 20,000 gold.
They're looking for their first Phoenix of the game. Really have their choice of the litter in terms of what Phoenix they want to push, but since they're here in the right lane, they decide this one is the option, at least for the moment. iRaffer tanking up the Phoenix will allow Pandacat to put shots in. JeffHindla already below half HP. JeffHindla's already dead. Yammyn is as well. Double kill before he can even get the ultimate off. BaRRa on the run for his life. He's going to be able to turn and fire some shots on his return to the fountain. Variety gets an express ticket to the fountain. Zyrhoes putting him in the grave. 23 kills for the Minotaurs. Only 2 left alive. Totally looking like a game 3.
It looks like it, but QvoFred, he has his ultimate, but he can't get it off in time. Benji gets hit, but the Geb shield will negate some of that damage, and we will indeed see a game 3 as Minotaurs find redemption.
24-8. I think the scoreline is a decent representative of this game because Minotaurs really dominated from minute 1. There was about an 8-minute period in the middle of that where Juggernauts looked like they had seized the momentum back. They defend their tier 2 tower on left. They defend their tier 2 tower in mid. They get the Portal Demon to pick onto Zyrhoes. And then trying to continue that engagement is what ultimately spells their demise.
It just seemed to me that any team that focused out the enemy support for too long was not going to win that team fight. That's exactly what happened once Juggernauts started winning those first couple of engagements, dumping everything onto, we saw iRaffer was not the way to go. But because they were also down about 10,000 gold, there was not too much comeback potential because of that lost fight. If they don't lose that fight, they keep going, then we could see a 2-0 clean sweep.
I agree with you. I mean, Juggernauts, as we mentioned, they really started to come back into it, and they looked like they had all the momentum. But you still see the Minotaurs are just getting item after item after item, and Juggernauts are struggling to find the gold in order to complete those oh-so-important power spike items. adapting in this game, I mean, we already touched on it, but we got to go back to him. I mean, he was phenomenal from beginning to end.
And this kill right here, BaRRaCCuDDa did get the first blood onto Pandacat. So that was unfortunate for Minotaurs, but it didn't matter because adapting was all over the map. It didn't matter if it was dueling or waiting for Variety to be a little bit aggressive in the soul lane. He was just there in the nick of time.
Always seemed to be at the right spot at the right time. Multi-man Fear No Evils all throughout the game. Just had these blinks, the monkey tosses always seem to be on point, and that focus down on a Variety was really what set the Minotaurs up for success in this game.
And just being able to use those furious monkeys, he knows who to target with it because of the trajectory of the bounces. Who's going to be that last victim? Finding QvoFred multiple times. There wasn't a point in the game where adapting wasn't at least 3 levels ahead after the mid game.
That was an impressive performance from the Minotaurs to force game number 3. The Manticores are awaiting the victor of this one. As we mentioned, the Minotaurs probably want a chance for some revenge after that multiplicity showing where they had to go up against 5 Hells. You always want to be able to stomp down the team that that kind of cheeses you.
That would be true poetic justice for the Minotaurs. You know, losing that badly in that mode. But you got to get through this path first to get into the end of the rainbow there where the pot of gold awaits.
I mean, Juggernauts, they have to make some adjustments from game number 2. They were dominant in game 1, as probably more so than the Minotaurs were in game number 2. For you, what was the biggest difference for the Juggernauts between 1 and 2?
In terms of what the Juggernauts did or what the Minotaurs
what
did?
the Juggernauts did.
So what the Juggernauts couldn't do was shut down adapting, right? They found multiple speed buff invades with QvoFred, taking advantage of the Wukong on adapting early on, despite giving up the first blood for adapting. Didn't really matter too much because they stopped him from getting the speed buff over and over again. They didn't allow adapting to get any kills, but it's a lot harder to deny a Batz that has 3 forms of engagement between his blink, his jump, or that furious monkey teleport.
That's a good point. I mean, and does that really come down to the fact that Minotaurs maybe misdrafted in game number 1? They messed up their draft a little bit and just did better than that in game number 2? Or was it Juggernauts just playing better in game 1?
I don't think that Minotaurs misdrafted in game number 1. I just don't think that they played to their fullest potential with their draft. Neith and Wukong didn't do what they needed to do in that first game. However, this Sun Wukong, Batz, the double monkey brothers, certainly did.
They really were dominant in this one. Benji and adapting looking like Dimmy and adapting, basically, with how well they both played, or possibly Maniac and adapting, depending on how well they do the rest of Season 4. Pandacat as well had an excellent showing in this game. Didn't have the best of KDAs, but I think that it kind of betrayed how well he played in this game, especially in that last team fight on that right side Phoenix. JeffHindla ate 4 or 5 Hu-Yi autos, and adapting gets the easy cleanup kill, but really it was Pandacat who set him up for that.
Absolutely. We're seeing a lot of prioritization of this Terra for the Juggernauts, specifically onto JeffHindla, and that was still a great idea for the first and the second game. I'm expecting them to go the same exact option here. It's been working out for them, making sure that they have the peels for their backline, but Yammyn playing this Freya in game number 2 wasn't as impactful in game number 1, simply because there was no early game momentum to escalate him in that late game Freya form.
Exactly. I mean, that seemed to be the ideal scenario in game number 1, where Yammyn just gets the free farm, he can do whatever he wants, and then he gets to use that Valkyrie's discretion aggressively in order to finish off kills. This time with Zyrhoes playing the Morrigan, it's always right up into Yammyn's face. He's got to use his ultimate defensively. He's 1 HP by the time he hits the ground, and then just a pile on basically from the Minotaurs. Game 2 goes the Minotaurs' way. Game 1 went the Juggernauts. So we're going to have a game 3. We're going to throw to a quick video and be right back for the start of game number 3.